Welcome everyone to another edition of Manatee Cares, our program to educate the community about the wonderful resources available to men, women, and children who are struggling with issues related to homelessness. Our goal is to enable you to learn about the many agencies, groups, and individuals that are working together to provide services so that you will check out these agencies yourself. All of us rely on volunteers and financial contributions from the community. So Manatee Cares provides an opportunity for you to connect with a group that serves your interest. My name is Adela Roser, and I'm Executive Director of the Community Coalition on Homelessness, which operates the Bill Galvano One-Stop Center in downtown Bradenton. Today we are going to learn about one of our longtime partners, Manatee Religious Services. With us today are Lexi Taylor, Executive Director of Manatee Religious Services, Joel Mims, the Office Manager, Herb Bankston, a board member, and Ethel Berry, a board member also of Manatee Religious Services. Lexi, can you tell us a little bit about the history of Manatee Religious Services?
Would love to. Actually, we date back to 1984. That's when pastors were sitting around a luncheon table one day and they realized that the same family was going to different churches for the same need. And they said that it would be really great if they had one central location to send someone to gather the information, make sure it's legitimate, make sure it hasn't been duplicated, and then find the appropriate resources for them. So that's how we were started, was through the Ministerial Association and the pastors. And so we've been here for 28 years and still trying to help those that have needs and need assistance.
And how many churches are there then that support Manatee Religious Services?
We have logged 273 churches in Manatee County, but there's probably about 109 that we work with on a regular basis.
So the idea is that people, instead of going to the churches then refer them to you. Is that correct?
Exactly. If somebody knocks on a church door today, there's probably the first thing that they're going to say to is, we work through Manatee Religious Services, you need to call them, and they'll give the phone number. Yes.
And this new system, do you think it's cut down on duplication, got rid of it? Is it successful, or how do you think that works?
It definitely gets rid of the duplication. There's no doubt about that. And of course, there are some people that want to take advantage of the church, and it has eliminated that to a large extent. When we get to work early in the morning, by noon we might get 6 or 7 calls from churches that say, ask us about one certain person, and it's the same person. So at that point we can send out alerts to the churches and say, watch out for, or send them back to us, or have them call us, or call 211. So we make sure that the churches are alerted when somebody has been going from church to church.
And then how do you get most of your referrals? I mean, where did the calls come from? Did they come from the people, or from the churches, or both, or agencies?
Referrals, actually about 64% come from other agencies. And probably maybe 30% of it will come from the churches, and the rest come from because they've been there before, or a friend tells them about it. So it's pretty amazing where they come from.
And what kinds of things are you able to help them with?
We never know what we can help them with. We have all sorts of requests that come through our office anywhere. 85% are financial needs, whether it's food or utilities or rent, something financial. The rest might be service needs, maybe to fix a screen door, take someone, to the doctor that needs a ride and can't take the handy bus. We've had one request for tires. Why would somebody be so bold to ask for tires? Well, because they needed them. And so we never know what comes through our office, but we take the application and say, okay, will it work?
And if I remember right, your application is all by telephone, is that correct?
Everything is by telephone. We do not take any walk-ins. We do not make appointments. They don't have to pack up their kids and their aunts and the uncles and put them all in the car. All they have to do is call us.
And what are your hours that you operate?
Our hours are from 9 to 12 and 1 to 4. Those are our application hours.
Every day,
Monday through Friday.
Okay, great. And Herb, can you tell us a little about your role in the agency? What is it that you do there?
Well, I do 3 different things at the agency. I'm on the board of directors. I'm also treasurer of the association and sign the checks and bills we have to pay and help with that. And on Thursday mornings, I volunteer and talk to these people who call in and need help of various sorts. And it's fun. You really get some beauties every once in a while that we all have a good laugh about, but we really are serious about it and take everything down and really try and help them out. And we ask them all kinds of questions. Our application's 8 pages.
Wow. How long does it take to do an application then with one person?
It averages out about 25, 30 minutes.
Okay.
Some longer, some shorter, but and you get to talk to all kinds of people, so it's interesting.
And what's your favorite part of the job? Or what of those 3 jobs that you do?
Well, I like them all, but I think talking to the people really is intriguing, and figuring out how we can help them.
And Ethel, how about you? I'm sorry, I said you were a board member, but you're a volunteer, is that correct?
I'm a volunteer, that's all. And I take the applications as well, and I work most every Wednesday morning. And I guess I've been there at least 8.5 years because I took time off last year to go away. But as Herb said, it's quite rewarding, and we do applications for rent or help people with their electric and water bills. And
if you have somebody who calls you for rent, let's say, how do you determine that they really are in need?
Well, I don't do that part.
Oh.
That's somebody else's job.
Okay.
I just take the application and I don't make any determinations.
Okay, great. So you just do the phone interview then?
Yes, we're at the phone.
Okay. And Joel, are you the one who does the determinations?
I am.
Okay. As the office manager, tell us about what you do.
Well, once a volunteer takes the application, I review it and see what else might need to be verified or what other information we need. And then I try to look at the big picture and say, will a church's assistance be the best help in this situation? Sometimes we end up referring them to another agency. Sometimes they just need more affordable housing or some other service. But usually it's, let's find a church that can get in there and help, minister to them, make a personal connection, and also usually make a financial contribution as well.
Do you provide follow-up? Like when you place somebody, is there a person who checks on them after they're in whatever they're doing?
Every application that we take, we try to get a church involved and have someone go visit them, make a face-to-face connection, and then we follow up with the church to see how that meeting went. And then it's up to the church, and the client how that goes. But we do try to follow up, and we keep that on record so that we can look back and see how those meetings have gone.
Wonderful. Well, Herb, tell me about some of these intriguing stories that you have. What's one of the stories that's most memorable for you, or that you were able to succeed in getting someone some help?
Oh, I wish I could repeat some of them.
Oh.
But I try and put them away and forget about them after a while. Joel's sitting there laughing about it. We've had a few good laughs on some of them we've had, but people, every once in a while you'll get a few that really try to put it over on you. And we know I think by the time I get through the half of the second page, I know whether I'm talking to someone who's really telling us the truth or whether they're just trying to put something over on us. And we figure that out pretty quickly.
So what
But-
kinds of questions do you ask in this application?
Well, we go through and ask them, you know, where they live, their social security numbers, what they need help with, how many people live in the house or the apartment or whatever or house or whatever home they have, how many children they have. We ask them who. I think one of the fun ones was I had 5 one day. One person with 5 children called, and each one had a different father. And 3 of them were in jail, so they couldn't help them out at all, and the woman needed help. So we take the application, go through all that. If she's working, we want to know where they live, what the rent is. We'll talk to the people who have the mortgage. We'll talk to the lessee. We find out if they're working. We talk to them and find out if they do have a job there. This is just checking everything out that they're giving us, and we have a whole bunch of yes and no questions. We ask them, you know, do they get food stamps? Do they get any kind of pension funds from wherever they worked, et cetera? They have an automobile. Do they go to church? If they don't have a job, we try and give them telephone numbers of places that might be hiring so that they can call them on the phone, and they have to call us back the following week and tell us, you know, how they made out with these phone calls. And if they don't, we're not going to do much to help them. They've got to give us all the information, and we usually take about 10 days to go through all this, or Joel does, before we go out and look for money for them. But we check them out very carefully so that we're not getting stomped on by these people trying to give us fake answers to a lot of questions.
And Lexi, where does the funding come for this then?
The funding to keep us operational comes from the churches and individuals who believe in what we're doing. We take no federal or state funding. Funding to help the families in need actually comes through the churches or other programs that are available in Manatee County. So we don't want to duplicate. If there's already a program in Manatee County that can help the families, we're going to refer them there if we know they fit the criteria. Right. Yeah. So as far as trying to find assistance for somebody, and how do we know that, you know, to help someone, is we keep this mental scale in our head. It's like this line of continuum that if 1 is totally dependent on the system and 10 is totally independent but in crisis, when somebody calls us, they're a 10. We don't know any different, but yet we take an application and find out that, oh, they're really an 8 on this line of continuum. Everything that we do for them has to move them toward that 10 mark. If we think that paying 1 more bill is going to enable them or move them back toward the 1 mark, we're not going to do it. We're going to look for options. So, you know, we want to help everyone, but we want to do it appropriately. So some of them are hard. Some of them are hard, and some of them are not one person's decision. Sometimes Joel comes to me and says, I don't know what to do with this. And I see it differently sometimes than the way he sees it or reads it. You know, so we put our heads together, so it's not one person's decision all the time. So as you well know, some of them are hard cases.
And what do you find is the hardest? I mean, when I can tell you what, from our perspective, it is when we have someone we can't help.
Right.
But do you have anywhere that you can refer people that aren't sustainable? Because that's probably the biggest need in the community.
Yes, yes. That is hard because most of the programs say that you have to have some sort of sustainability, and to send them otherwise, yeah, we send a lot to you, and we don't want to do that in the way of dumping. We want to know, you know, if we think that you have funding, et cetera, and of course that's what PATH is also good about, is we know who has funding at what time, but we try not to do that. We look for options. You know, sometimes the option is, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to, you know, pack up and go home to mom, you know, or dad, or, you know, catch a bus and go back to family. When we take the application, it's pretty extensive, and it's because we're trying to assess what's really happening. What's the need that caused the need? And we need to address that. But also we're trying to say, where's that support system? Most of them don't have a support system. And that's what the church connection does a lot of the times. It's getting somebody to come along and walk alongside of them, to walk them through those hard places, to say, did you do this? Can I take you here? Can I do this? You know? So sometimes it's that support system that they didn't even know was available.
So Ethel, do you have a favorite story of someone that you've been able to help?
Well, I think I heard about a lady who was having cancer treatments recently, and she needed assistance, and it was wonderful that we were able to help her. I think she had had a job for a number of years, and because she was sick, she was not getting help from her former employer, and so she reached out to us, and we were able to help her with her rent.
Oh, wonderful.
And that was a blessing.
Yeah, those are very tough stories when it's medical issues.
Yes.
We find that those are some of the hardest to help.
Yes.
And Joel, what would you say are the hardest ones that you have, or what is the most popular thing people are asking for, or the biggest need, I guess you would say?
The biggest need that I've noticed is either rent or utilities by far. People get behind on their rent, or in an effort to not get behind on their rent, get behind on their utility payments. And that can be anything. Car accidents, we've had people that were mugged and lost were carrying their next rent payment with them and lost that whole sum of money. Other times it's a more ongoing need. They've been out of work for a long time and just eating into their savings and got behind. And with today's economy, landlords are not as willing to work with tenants as they were in the past. So, if a landlord will start the eviction process pretty quickly sometimes, and there's not much we can do.
It's definitely difficult for people who don't have some kind of sustainability out there. What would you do then? Do you actually have financial assistance yourself to help with the rent and the utilities, or do you refer that to another agency?
Well, we don't have any financial money ourselves, but we seek money through the churches. So once an application has been done and it's verified and we're looking for assistance for them, I or someone else in the office is calling churches in their area. We try to stay local within the same neighborhood and find churches that can meet that need. But we ourselves do not have any money to help people in need.
So then does the church, if somebody needs, let's say, $900 for rent, they actually come through with the money and you pay the landlord, or the church pays the landlord?
The church would send a check directly to the landlord.
Okay.
Yes.
That's tough, though.
It is. And more and more these days, we're trying to get just a partial payment and see if the landlord can work with the tenant in that way, that we could pay half or a third of a rent payment, and then the tenant could, over time pay off the balance that they still owe. And sometimes the landlord's willing to work with that, and other times they are in a financial difficulty themselves and just can't afford to.
Lexi, do you feel like the biggest need out there is employment? Lack of employment is what's keeping a lot of these people from being able to sustain themselves?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's tough, especially for single parents. I mean, that is probably the hardest one. And we have all the information for day labor, temp services, job services. Sometimes we'll have employers who will call us, that they're looking, for employees. But for the most part, we are struggling here in Manatee County just to find employment for people, and meaningful employment. That more than 20 hours a week at minimum wage. But it is difficult. But sometimes we have a family of 5 adults, living in the same household, and only one is working. It's tough. And it is that tenuous balance between that cup of cold water and he who don't work don't eat. Where's the grace in that at sometimes, and then how many cups of cold water do you give someone before you drown them? So it's like we have all of this that we want to work through, and do the right thing by them. Yeah.
Do you find that issues such as substance abuse and mental health issues, are those the kinds of people or requests also that you get? Is that usually a factor or
We
not?
usually don't know a lot of that. In our application, we don't find that out. Sometimes the church will find that out once they go to visit, and try to make that connection. But through our application, there's not too vivid of a way to find that out.
So what would you say, Joel, are some of the biggest challenges that Manatee Religious Services faces today?
Well, the biggest challenge for me is just finding help for people. We have a large number of clients that will not finish the application. So we don't continue with that if they are not responsible to call back and really do what we ask of them. But once they do, then it can be very hard to find churches that are financially able to assist people. And I can't pass judgment on them because with the economy, money's tight for everyone. And it's hard to justify, paying someone's electric bill that you might never, have any meaningful contact with. So that's by far, I think, the hardest challenge. And also for us, our funding, because of operating on donations, our funding is just a cause of concern sometimes.
I might add something on that. As treasurer of the organization, we have a group. We have our own building on 18th Street. We have 4 full-time employees that we have to pay. We have insurance and taxes and everything else. So basically my job as treasurer is handling that end of it, not where Joel is looking for help from the churches. So it's kind of a twofold effect here that we're working on. So what I'm trying to do is help, and at the board of directors, is to raise money so that we can continue operating the way we have been.
And what do you do to raise money?
Well, we've done all kinds of things. We have an annual dinner every year in February or March, which we've been, I don't know how many years we've been running that.
19.
19, okay. So, and we raise money through that. We did it several years of having a golf day, trying to bring in people and raise money that way. We're looking for other ways. We think that having golf tournaments has probably been so overdone. Every week that goes by, we have another one out there by some other organization. So it's gotten very difficult, and we're skipping it this year. And we're looking at a few other ideas that we have that we can use to raise money.
Do you do fundraising? Do other volunteer groups do fundraising also for you? I mean, do the church's mission groups do volunteer fundraisers or?
No, but going back to that, I think that's how our first golf tournament started. There was a church that had a golf tournament, and the proceeds came to us, and they did that for a couple of years. And then the 3rd year, they said, "We would like you to come partner with this and kind of take it over. Learn from us the first year that we stepped in, and then to take it over after that." So that's how we got into the golf tournament business.
And how many volunteers do you have in the organization then?
We don't have enough right now. We do not have enough. And I will tell you that we are inundated with requests. July was our first July that I can remember that we had to put a freeze on in the summertime because there are so many. When we get 50 requests on the board, we put a freeze on and we take no new requests till we work through some of that. It's not fair to the people calling us to do that and leave them on the board for a week or so. So we struggle. We need volunteers. There's no doubt about that. Joel does the training one-on-one.
What would a volunteer need to commit to if they wanted to come and work for you?
3 to 4 hours, 1 day a week. That's it. And we're flexible with those 3 to 4 hours. Normally it's from 9 to 12:30 or from 12:30 to 4. Ethel comes in at 10 and leaves at 1. So we're flexible.
Great. Well, hopefully, I think that's something that we want the community to know is that July and even into August, we've also had the same problem with being overwhelmed with requests for assistance. We had to stop our online application because we had 120 applications that we had to get back to, and we called each and every one of them also. So I think that the community needs to know that the need out there is definitely huge.
It's great. And of course our goal is to prevent homelessness, you know, before they have to go on the street. So the majority, we have a lot of rent requests, and so our goal too is to try to keep them. But I think my struggle is because they're so in this mode with the other agencies that you have to have a cutoff notice or an eviction notice, etc., that by the time they get that, sometimes what they're asking for is not manageable because it's so high. You know, to pay somebody's rent for 1 month at $600 to $800, that might be workable, but when it gets to $2,000, it's not manageable.
We find the same thing.
Yes.
Well, we're going to have to wrap it up here today. I wanted to say thank you to everybody for coming. And Lexi, do you have some last thoughts?
Just that we're here for the people. We want to help. We know that people are in a crisis, and the church is here to help people, so we want the church to be the church.
Herb?
Well, yes, I think we could use a lot more volunteers, and I think that's where a big help would come in. And I think when we get volunteers, they spread the word out to their churches and the people, their friends and whatnot. And I think we can, Lexi can probably clear that up, that many of the people who do volunteer, we've seen extra things happen when they come in, and other people of their friends have helped us.
And you
So I
probably
think
get
that's
more
good.
than you give, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ethel?
Yes, well, it's a wonderful place to volunteer. We get to sit most of the time and just talk on the phone, so it's not physical labor. And you get a lot of satisfaction from it. And the people that you work with are wonderful.
Great.
It's a wonderful place.
Joel?
Well, I'd like to thank you for having us on here, and just that, you know, the service we provide is a help not only to people in need, but also to the churches. And it's very important that we stay in existence for both those groups, people in need and churches that are trying to be responsible with their money and help as many people as they can.
Yes. Well, we all have to work with less resources.
Yes.
Well, as you have heard today, Manatee Religious Services provides vital services to the people in need in our community. I would like to thank Lexi, Joel, Ethel, and Herb for being here today to share their stories and their passion for assisting people in crisis. We are all grateful for the work you and all the volunteers at Manatee Religious Services do. If you have questions about their organization that weren't answered today, you may contact Lexi or me. Our contact information will be shown after the close of this program. Thank you for joining us today to learn about services available in our community for people in need. I hope you have learned something about what your community has to offer and the many opportunities there are for you to contribute. I look forward to being with you again next time on Manatee Cares.